Welcome back, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me. And in today's video, I'm going to be revealing a new bike to the channel. Now, if you know my style, it's not going to be new off the shelf. But that being said, this is my early 90s Diamondback Override. I was able to obtain this bike pretty close to the original condition, given it was fairly dirty when I first obtained it. But pretty much everything you see on here is stock, minus the pedals and of course the bottle cages. They didn't come with the original bottle cages, but that includes the original chain, the original tires, and the brakes and brake pads. Now I want to go over this bike front to back, tell you all the details that I've noticed while riding this bike for the past 3-4 weeks, and changes that will be happening to this bike fairly soon. In fact, probably after I upload this video. All right, starting off with the front, it has all the original components, including the bar ends. I've never used bar ends like this before, and honestly, this is really nice. The grip on the sides is amazing if you're hitting some sand, losing a little bit of control, and you want to have a little bit more stability. But then also, the bends on the front actually allow me to get aero, and when I'm on the tarmac, I can really get cooking on this, surprisingly. Next to it, the grips are original as well, and they still have the Diamondback logo on it, so that's pretty cool. They're a little old, but they're not crusty or hard, so I'm totally fine using them. And next, the brake and shifter combo component. They're integrated into one piece. So if I wanted to change the shifter or the brake levers, that's not going to be possible with these particular components. So I didn't have to do much cleaning and maintenance on the shifters. But again, at the moment, it's serving me well, and it is really crisp with its shifting. And as you can see, it's a triple crankset and 7-speed in the back. And I've been having a really good time using this. I've never used a triple before, and it has come in handy, especially now that a lot of the gravel roads, they've been sending a lot of bulldozers on these gravel roads. So a lot of them are turning to just sand anymore. And that little tiny gear helps me so much get through these really deep sand patches out here that are occurring now. So I don't call it the granny gear, I call it the sand and wheelie gear. So let me not jump the gun and move back to the front again. These cantilever brakes are original brake pads. And I was shocked when I got this bike that the rubber that sits behind the cantilever brakes wasn't cracked and old that you usually find with any vintage bike that you're trying to restore. Usually you'll have to replace the cantilever brakes because that plastic or rubber piece, it just corrodes and gets old. And these are nice and soft. So I'm using these original cantilever brake calipers and they've been fine. Another thing that I've shockingly been able to use is the original tires. I know that's kind of crazy, and the rear is starting to have that kind of crusty, cracking look. So this is one of the things that I am going to change after I upload this video because I have the Panaracer Gravel King tires ready to go. These are 38C and my Panaracers are 43C. It totally looks like it has enough room to fit the 43C. But as 38C on this bike and with the treaded tires, it's working great as well. And even on the concrete, it's fairly fast. I'm sure it probably would be faster in its brand new condition, but so far they've been good. Back to talking more about the triple crankset. I'm using the BioPace version of the triple crankset from Shimano. There's been a lot of controversy and very strong opinions about the BioPace chainrings. I'm gonna leave that for a future video. Probably going to be titled 1 month using the BioPace chainrings, because right now I'm enjoying it. It's not too big of a deal and I don't notice much, and I don't notice any difference, but I'm going to spend long term with the BioPace chainrings to see if anything pops up or anything I notice in the future. That being said, it's a 48, 38, and 28 chainring combination. And the 48 is perfect for the road. The middle chainring is great when I'm hitting up gravel, and the smallest chainring is perfect for when I really have to dump the gears and get through some sand patches. Or again, if I want to bust some wheelies. Like I mentioned, I've never had a triple crankset setup before, and I had to really tinker with the front derailleur. It was a little finicky, and trying to get it set up just right after cleaning everything was actually kind of hard. So I can see the appeal if someone wants to go to a one by, because messing with front derailleurs can be tedious at times. Luckily, I was able to get it and it's working smoothly now. But I might go to a 1x setup in the future. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think I should stick with the 3x or convert to a 1x. Next, I want to talk about the seat post because, again, with these vintage builds, sometimes there's not a lot of information about the seat post size, and they were using goofy sizes back in the day. This is a 25.8 millimeter seat post. As far as I know, that was measured in my calipers. Now, I have a 25.8 millimeter seat post coming in the mail to see if that is accurate, because sometimes with all this scuffing, it could cause deformation. I had that happen in the past with the Fuji and incorrect measurements for the seat posts, but this time around, I will definitely report if it truly is a 25.8 millimeter seat post. Same thing in the back. The cantilever brakes with the rubber behind it works totally fine and is not cracked or corroded, so thankful for that. And last but not least, the rear derailleur, the X-Sage LX300. It has been good and it shifts pretty nicely even under load. So that's actually kind of surprising. But again, with these older bikes that were lower spec'd with components, this rear derailleur is okay. I mean, the tension spring is very, very soft. So this time around, I am getting chain slaps. So this is going to be changing real soon as well, probably to the Acera rear derailleur that I do have. Again, another goofy thing from lower spec components back in the day, they used a nut to clamp the shifter cables and sometimes the brake cables as well. But actually, I'm getting a little antsy. Let me go ride and I'll continue to talk about this bike. I'm gonna hit up the rest of this path. Again, they've been taking these bulldozers and really mixing up the gravel and sand, so it's pretty tough. And I'm pretty much riding at like 8 miles an hour, but let's get going. Now, if you've been subscribed for some time, you'll know that I had an older gravel bike conversion, the Specialized Crossroads Cruise. So I'm coming from that setup. See, this is what I'm talking about. I can't get any speed on these roads. But anyways, this frame geometry compared to the Specialized Crossroads Cruise is actually way more aggressive, and I like it a lot more. The Specialized Crossroads Cruise was pretty sluggish, a bit heavier as well. Not to mention, it was honestly one size too big for me. And that top tube was 60 centimeters long. That was really, really far. Actually, I'm gonna turn around. The sand's just getting worse and worse. But that being said, on the Diamondback Override, it feels more of a traditional geometry. The top tube is exactly what I want at 55.5, 56 centimeters. And the seat tube is about the same. So the geometry was exactly what I was looking for after hunting for a while for a replacement gravel bike. And yes, I did say gravel bike, as I do believe this bike is a vintage 90s gravel bike. The reason being is it's not 26-inch tires on here. It's 700C. So I think they're onto something back then in regards to gravel riding. But yeah, the caveat is it's got flat bars. But again, these bar ends are super cool to use. Also, I feel the head tube is a bit more aggressive, so you can really get on top of this bike and ride aggressively. It just doesn't feel sluggish at all. If I wanted to split hairs here, and it's not a huge deal, honestly, is the head tube's a little on the shorter side. Because the stack is so low, being more of an aggressive road type geometry, you're gonna have to use these riser quill stems if you want to have it reasonably comfortable, especially for off-road. If I do convert this to a drop bar gravel bike, I definitely will be using the Redshift top shelf bars. Yeah, I'm telling you, my gravel rides have come to a crawl. But it seems the head tube's a little bit shorter because the down tube is angled a little bit higher for better tire clearance, I'm assuming. Because compared to my Performance Vitesse, it seems pretty similar. Again, that's just splitting hairs with the head tube. It's not a big deal at all. Still rides great. Oh, finally back on the street again. That is not fun. And there's an example of shifting under load, so this thing can definitely handle it. Now, I jumped the gun a little bit praising the brakes. They work great, don't get me wrong, not a problem at all. But I do have the rear brake, so that's okay. I mean, the brakes are really grabby. I can do stoppies, and if I'm doing wheelies, I can definitely control it. So the braking power is not an issue. And then that's another thing too with these brake levers. They look so old school and in such good condition that I just love looking at them and using them. They feel really good. The brake pull is great and it doesn't have much flex. I'm not wanting more. Gosh, getting into that aero position is so comfortable. Now the wheel set is the Araya rims. I'm not too sure of the front hubs, but I did service both of them. And also I did service the free hub in the back, and it catches fine, but it literally has no sound. Let me do a sound check real quick. I guess there's kind of a cassette coasting sound, but it's really not loud and I can't hear it when I'm riding. All right, now climbing this hill with the bar ends. If you're super confident that you're in the right gear for a hill climb, grabbing the ends and climbing is just so comfortable. It's amazing. Coming up to a gravel path, and you'll see the rear derailleur, the tension spring is just not that good. I don't know if it's because of age or just the lower tier spec component, but again, that'll be swapped out soon. So I've been enjoying with the triple crankset. When I hit a sand patch and I really need to dump the gears, it just takes it without complaining. Oh, by the way, if you notice that this bike is dirty, I promise I did thoroughly clean the entire bike, but I've been riding it like crazy, super aggressive, and it's dirty again, but it's working efficiently. Another detail about this frame that was totally unexpected is the rear spacing is actually 130 millimeters. I fully expected it to be 135, and you know how that kind of limits you, but no, this can take a 130 millimeter hub. All right, I used to be able to go further down and keep riding this gravel road, but it's completely demolished. It's way too sandy. Even for the tiny chainring, I can't get through it. So I'm gonna end this video here. The sun is setting. Final thoughts with this. First off, this video is not going to be a one and done. I'll definitely have follow-up videos, any modifications that I do, and I'll definitely answer any questions that you have in regards to this specific model bike. Again, it's hard to find information on some of these vintage bikes, and I can't find the catalog scan that shows this particular bike. There's similar overrides that do exist on some catalog scans I found online, but this particular colorway with the spec sheet and everything, I simply just can't find. Like I mentioned before with the triple crankset, everything is just way more sandy anymore, and having the 28 tooth smaller chainring, I can at least still ride whatever this environment gives me out here. But if I go one by, it might be too much of a challenge at this point. Then again, I do ride fixed gear, so underbiking is kind of my thing. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you come across this bike and are looking for more information, that I can answer some of the questions. Literally after this ride, I'm going to be changing the tires on this bike and changing the rear derailleur. If I come across other parts, for example, on eBay or locally on Facebook Marketplace, I'll update it on my Instagram. So be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Also, it might be your last chance to get some of the Bob Marley cycling kits from State Bicycle, as I am an ambassador for them. So I'll put that information in the description down below as well. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate that, liking this video and subscribing. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video.